This is Obama's stage at the Democratic Nominating Convention in Denver in 2008, designed to look like a Greek temple. It's strange enough that Obama made a temple his stage, a place of worship, but Obama's nomination temple appears to be modeled after the Pergamon Altar, a special place. This is a Pergamon Altar, which is on display at the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, Germany, only a few hundred yards from the place where Obama gave a speech a couple of months before the convention. The Pergamon Altar is special because it is mentioned in the biblical book of Revelation and is called in Revelation the seat or throne of Satan. The Greek god Zeus and pagan idols were worshipped at Pergamon. However, more importantly, Caesar Augustus, the ruler of Rome, was worshipped as a god at Pergamon. An early Christian named Antipas was sacrificed there because he refused to worship the pagan gods of Pergamon. Antipas was burned alive at this altar inside a hollow bronze bull. Hitler's architect, Albert Speer, also modeled the tribune at the Zeppelin field in Nuremberg after the Pergamon altar. This fact is mentioned in the documentary film The Architecture of Doom. This is the Zeppelin field at Nuremberg, one of the sites where Hitler had his National Reichstag rallies. Hitler also sacrificed 10 million Christians as well as Jews by gassing and burning them to death. Obama's temple looks even more like the Pergamon altar than Hitler's did. Obama is the most prominent follower of the radical anarchist Saul Alinsky. Alinsky dedicated his book, Rules for Radicals, to Lucifer. It is a textbook for revolutionary radical activists, and Lucifer was the first revolutionary, as Alinsky points out. Black liberation theology teaches that the black race is the manifestation of God on earth, and that a black Messiah will lead the destruction of white society, the traditional Christian church, and America as we have known it. That man is God is a Luciferian concept. You may recall from the Bible, Lucifer was cast out of heaven because he wanted to be on a higher level than God. The self-worship of man can be considered a form of Satanism. This is actually the kind of belief that the Nazis had, that the Aryan race is God, and that Adolf Hitler was the Messiah. The stage design is unlikely to be accidental because there have been so many references by his own supporters to Obama being the Messiah or a god, and the doctrine of his own church actually teaches that concept. It seems more likely to be a provocation. Obama loves for his opponents to call him the Antichrist because he can use it to make them look hysterical and to motivate his supporters. But I think it's also a play on his own religious belief. Because they can't normally say it openly in public, occultists have used ambiguous symbolism like this for hundreds of years to hint to others what their beliefs are. Saul Alinsky tied his book to Lucifer because he realized that he is using the same principles. It seems that Obama is pointing to his own relationship to Lucifer with what appears to be the dedication of his campaign to the great deceiver.
I, John, was on the island that is called Patmos. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice. To the angel of the church in Pergamum write, I know your works, and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is. And you hold fast to my name, and did not deny my faith, even in the days in which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells.
Satan felt at home there.
In the 1st century, it was the place where Satan dwells. In the 20th, it inspired Adolf Hitler. From the first burnt sacrifice to the final solution.
Pergamum had a unique status that was different than any other city because it was the political center. On one side, it was a very beautiful city. But on the flip side, it was one of the darkest, eeriest cities in the whole Roman Empire.
The people of Pergamon were known as the temple keepers of Asia. The city had 3 temples dedicated to the worship of the Roman emperor, another for the goddess Athena, and the great altar of Zeus, the king of the Greek gods. Many scholars believe this altar is the throne of Satan mentioned in the book of Revelation.
Satan felt at home there. He sat on a throne there. It was his territory. He was the master of that house.
In the book of Revelation, Jesus called Antipas my faithful martyr. He was the bishop of Pergamon, ordained by the Apostle John. Antipas was sentenced to death on the altar of Zeus. Most of that altar survives today, and surrounding it are some of the world's most famous marble friezes. They portray the battle between the Greek gods and the giants. At the top of the altar was a hollow bronze bull, designed for human sacrifice.
They would take the victim, place him inside the bull. They would tie him in such a way that his head would go into the head of the bull. Then light a huge fire under the bull. And as the fire heated the bronze, the person inside the bull would slowly begin to roast to death. And as the victim would begin to moan and would begin to cry out in pain, his cries would go through all of the pipes which were in the head of the bull, so it seemed to make the bull come alive.
Even in the midst of the flames, Antipas died praying for his church. In the 19th century, German engineers dismantled the altar and took it to Berlin. The so-called Throne of Satan went on display in the city's Pergamon Museum in 1930, just in time to inspire one of the most brutal dictators the world has ever seen. Stone by stone, the altar was excavated and brought here to Berlin, and then it was reassembled and placed in its own museum. The Pergamon Museum was finished in 1930, with the altar as its centerpiece. Eventually, it caught the eye of a young man named Albert Speer, the new chief architect for the Nazi Party. Adolf Hitler had commissioned him to design the parade grounds for the party rallies in Nuremberg, and for inspiration, Speer turned to the Pergamon altar. Using the altar as his model, Speer created a colossal grandstand at the rally grounds. It became known as the Zeppelin Tribune. Most of the Nuremberg rallies were held at night, so Speer surrounded the grandstand with 150 searchlights. The columns of light extended for miles in the sky, creating the mystical effect Hitler wanted. This effect was known as the Cathedral of Light, and it became a hallmark of Hitler's events.
And anytime you look at mythology and gods, you're looking skyward. So I don't think it's an accident that he says to Speer, let's create an environment of looking towards the heavens. And that's what it does.
Inside the rally grounds, thousands of Nazi party members marched in torchlight parades.
These events happen at night, which gives a contrasting effect of fear, of strength, of the unknown, of mystery, and that's all intended by him. He's very theatrical.
From his podium, Hitler mesmerized the crowds. Not every one of you sees me, and I do not see every one of you, but I feel you, and you feel me. Then, under the Cathedral of Light, thousands of Germans swore what they called a holy oath.
The 1934 party film is the consummate picture of Hitler. That's it. No other film was ever made of him. And he didn't want any other film made of him. Everything that he wanted people to know about the Nazis is in that film.
The film portrayed Hitler as a godlike figure, the savior of the German people.
Hitler's entrance in the film is from the sky, as a Messiah would be descending down through the heavens, through the clouds, to the faithful waiting for him below. And anytime he appears, any people that are anywhere near up close to him have these starry-eyed looks in their eyes, glazed looks almost, as if they're in the presence of an unearthly being. That's intentional.
Hitler's popularity skyrocketed after the release of Triumph of the Will. The next year, more than 1 million Germans came to Nuremberg to hear his speech. On the evening of September 15, 1935, Hitler announced the Nuremberg Laws, laws that took away German citizenship from Jews.
Hitler had a lot of popular support for much of his time in office. One doesn't get popular support by saying to the public, we're going to put Jewish people in gas chambers and then incinerate them. You don't do that. What he did was gradually marginalize them.
It was also here that Hitler used the phrase final solution for the first time in public. Hitler's final solution is now known as the Holocaust, from the Greek word that means a holy burnt animal sacrifice. In AD 92, the faithful martyr Antipas died, a holy burnt sacrifice on the altar of Zeus in Pergamon, the place the book of Revelation calls the throne of Satan.
What's up, guys? Look at this. If this doesn't say something to you, I don't know what does. We always knew he was acting like a dictator, but wow, here you go. Obama sits on the throne of Babylon. And here's his little crown, the king. If this picture ain't perfected, I don't know what to tell you. The White House tweeted out an image of Barack Obama depicted as a king from Game of Thrones. A gag that cuts a little too close to the bone to some critics about the lust for executive power. And I don't know if y'all saw the jokes he was telling the other night, but boy, you talking about some in your face, I don't give a crap no more jokes. I mean, he joked on everything and anybody, and people laughed, but his undertone was, I'm being serious. But here you go. Obama sits on the throne of Babylon, and he declares himself the king.